Car noises. The last time I wasn't embarrassed since I was here with Dad, but this time I was alone, and I was strangely self-conscious about it. Meet Shion, get my key back. That was all this task was supposed to be. Until the darkness came. If I dawdled around like this, maybe Shion would find me before she headed in for work. Hey, what are you doing, Keiichi, my para? You're just here to get your key back, you know? It's not like you're some love-struck schoolboy here to hand over a love letter. The thoughts inside my head were slowly turning into a jumbled mess. I came to the realization that I was downright giddy. That's why, for just a bit, just a tiny little bit, I got a little carried away and did something really stupid. I kicked over a... What? You're giddy, so you kicked over a parked motorcycle. That line of logic does not connect for me. That was blocking the sidewalk. Blocking the sidewalk. It was in the way, sure, but there was absolutely no need for me to kick it. I think I definitely got a little too carried away. I think so. Crash. As the three bikes toppled one after another like dominoes, the loud noise they caused snapped me back to my senses. Oh no, it's the delinquents with their motorcycles. The owners of those three bikes were right there. You are an idiot, Keiichi, my para. They looked exactly like what you'd call thugs up to no good. They lifted their heads up in an imposing manner and yelled angrily in a way I'd never heard before. The three of them beelined towards me, the worn-down heels of their thinly soled shoes slapping noisily against the pavement. I could only stare listlessly, as if I were watching some far-off event that didn't concern me at all. By the time I realized it, I'd been grabbed by the collar and lifted onto my tiptoes. Oh, you've been playing dumb, kid! What? The three thugs were completely ignoring the rules of grammar, those illiterate thugs, but the way they spoke was enough to make me tremble. Just like that, my composure drained away, my legs buckled, and my throat grew dry enough to crack. I accidentally kicked over your motorcycle. Is Shion gonna come save us? I feel like that might be what's gonna happen here. I was completely at fault, so there was nothing I could say in my defense. As a result, I was pulled even higher. Really, that's how you be a delinquent. You just grumble a lot. The three of them continued to yell at me. I had no idea what each of them were saying. Getting further enraged that I was only listening while dumbstruck, they grabbed an empty plastic crate from a nearby store and began to smash it repeatedly against a telephone pole. There we go. That's what you do, Keiichi. You don't kick over someone's bike. You grab an empty plastic crate and smash it against a telephone pole. Cracks formed in the crate, plastic shards flying everywhere. They then slammed it full force into the shuttered storefront. Smash! The shutter let out a frighteningly loud noise. Still not satisfied, they flipped over a case of empty cans, scattering its contents all over the place. This was not normal. It was something you saw often on television or in manga, but I never thought seeing it in person would be this terrifying. I became painfully aware that the safety of civilized society was only held up by such a frail concept as morals. My knees clattered together noisily. Static began to pepper my vision. This is what you would call absolute terror. There was nothing I could do to stop this frightening spectacle of violence. I could only pray for help. The fear I felt was just too much. Would somebody help me? My gaze floundered about the surrounding area. I was surrounded by these 3 hoodlums. No way there would be a passerby brave enough to intervene. Maybe this is what you would call reaping what you sow. If I were a passerby, there'd be no doubt that I'd ignore what was going on. So this was somewhat of a cosmic retribution. Oh, he's gonna stab you. Angrily yelling loud enough to rattle my eardrum spewed forth right in front of my face. My waning consciousness was forcefully dragged back to the forefront. The thug had cocked back his free hand and twisted his body when suddenly a metallic taste filtered through the back of my throat. A chill ran down my spine like a jolt of electricity. Seeing what was going to happen next, I squeezed my eyes shut as tightly as possible and grit my teeth. Oh yeah. Oh, she's so brutal. That voice was a short distance away. Still holding me by the collar, the 3 thugs spun around to look behind them. Uh-oh. Look, she's got the angry eyes. The angry eyes. Standing there was Mion. She stood there displaying an imposing stature that I'd never seen before. She didn't have the same look in her face as she did when we were playing around during club. Those were the eyes that would instill fear in anyone who looked upon them. The eyes of a raptor. They were the epitome of terror. At the same time, they were the most reassuring things in the world. Is this us over here? The most plain, bland-looking kid ever? I think that's us. Mion, without an ounce of fear, laid down her ultimatum. Of course, there was no way those 3 wouldn't go absolutely berserk. The situation instantly turned explosively dangerous. Why are they Scottish? Are they supposed to have that weird dialect that everyone else in Japanese makes fun of? Stop it, Mion. These guys are like rabid dogs. No amount of bluffing will work.
Mion,
I knew what I was saying was pathetic, but I couldn't let Mion get involved in this. No matter how you looked at it, Mion was only bluffing. But did Mion even know the meaning of the word bluff? However, the reason behind everything soon became apparent. They were slowly increasing in number, little by little. At first, it was only businessmen on their way home, stopping to take a look. Then it was housewives in the middle of shopping, taking a gander. Next, what seemed like the owner of some store showed up, and it was pretty clear he wasn't just looking. Around Mion, there were already about 7 people gathered. It felt different than people coming out to support a friend. If I had to say why, it was because the group that had gathered was diverse in age and gender. The 3 thugs seemed to slowly realize that there was something strange about the situation. Behind them, at some point 4 more people of differing clothes and ages had gathered. A girl who looked to be in middle school. A man wearing a bakery apron. An old lady in a house-cleaning smock. More and more, people of various ages. Their gazes, comparable to Mion's, were of hostility, of intimidation. Before I realized it, over 10 people had formed a ring around us. At that moment, 5 elementary schoolers ran in and joined the circle. Oh yeah, the elementary schoolers are going to stop the fight. There were some familiar faces. some of our classmates. Then these people were residents of Hinamizawa? More and more people from Hinamizawa gathered around. In obvious contrast, the residents of Okinamiya were passing by as quickly as possible. The group surrounding us had suddenly swelled to around 20 people. Completely encircled, the faces of the thugs began to show the first signs of panic. Nobody spoke a word, Mion included. That made everything completely unnatural, and depending on what side you were on, completely terrifying. Only the thugs' voices echoed out like they were screaming. Somebody took a step forward, closing the gap between them. As they did, everybody else took a step forward, shrinking the circle. The hoodlums went pale as they were pushed together, back to back, while still yelling angrily. They were trying to string together vulgarities, but for some reason it sounded like they were crying out for help. You know, now that I think about it, that sounds like an analogy for this whole thing where the whole town works together to kill off the outsiders kind of thing that we were dealing with in the last game. It was sudden. A solidly built officer cut his way through the crowd. At some point, 2 police cars had arrived. Some passerby had undoubtedly called for them. Several burly officers appeared from inside the second vehicle. Is anyone going to talk about the fact that I should get in trouble for damaging property for, like, no good reason? Because we kinda started the whole thing, I'm just saying. They have a reason to be upset. Mion, returning to her usual self, was nonchalantly pointing out the hoodlums to the police. Of course, the thugs were furious. But now that it had come to this, there was nothing they could do. It was their loss. That's what you get for antagonizing a kid for breaking your property. You thugs! The officers handcuffed the thugs and dragged them towards the patrol cars. No matter how much of a ruckus they caused, the officers paid no heed. In the blink of an eye, they were crammed inside the 2 vehicles. They could still be heard yelling while inside the police cars, but what they were saying was no longer intelligible. Oh, it's middle-aged man! He's here! He was probably a detective. The man leading the police peered at my face. I've come to lead the investigation to see if you really did kick over those bikes. The portly man, after taking a quick look around, addressed the crowd. Thank you for standing around and intimidating them. The way Shion talked didn't have a very pleasant tone.
道を開けてもらえますかな。
The detective named Oishi, after jovially making pleasantries, lumbered over to the waiting police car. It quickly set off, disappearing down the city street. It was over so quickly. So quickly, I was dumbstruck. I didn't even get to ask the officer what was going on. It was like they came here quickly to disperse the mob before any trouble could start. After making sure the police cars had left, Mion snapped her fingers sharply.
おっしゃ、一丁上がりだね。おととい来やがれっての。
That was the signal. The tension melted away in an instant as everyone began smiling. A middle-aged man helped me up.
大丈夫かい、前原の坊や。今度からは喧嘩は相手を選んでやりな。
別に喧嘩ってわけじゃ。
怪我とかしてない？頭とかぶつけてるならレントゲンを取っておいた方がいいわよ。
An older lady I didn't know the name of was concerned about my injury.
たまたま駅前で人通りの多い時間だったからこれだけ集まれたけど、次からは気をつけるんだよ。最近の町もんは物騒なんだから。はあ、まったく。
I was even warned by the old lady in the smock. As Shion finished applauding the dispersing group for their efforts, she strode over to me.
いやいや、ケイちゃんもやるじゃない。でも私も相手を選んだ方がいいと思いますけどね。
サンキューな、ミオ。
Thank you.
助かったよ。
だから私、シオン。
She made a troubled expression as she turned her gaze downward, blushing in embarrassment.
お姉に聞いてますよ。オットセイの鍵。あれ、ケイちゃんのですって？
How did you hear that so quickly?
あ、そうだった。
You guys don't live in the same, like, building.
これからお店に行こうとしてたんだ。
House, whatever.
それで浮かれてて、あんな変なのに絡まれちゃってたんですか？
Now it was my turn for my face to go red. I didn't want to admit that she was spot on.
まあ、でも、シオンのおかげで助かった。
お礼はいらないですよ。だから、ケイちゃんも他の人がいじめられてるのを見つけたら、きっと助けてあげてください。私たち、そういうのをとても大切にするから。
I was well versed in that sense of camaraderie. But the way I was rescued just now, something seemed a little off about that. While I was helped out, it was honestly to an almost disturbing degree.
お店来ますよね。疲れちゃっただろうから一服しません？おごりますよ。
It seems that she caught the glimmer of suspicion in my eyes. Without waiting for my answer, Shion began walking. And we're just gonna totally ignore that that was, like, completely our fault, by the way. Like, it's not like we passed them by and said, you know, like, and got in between, like, an argument of theirs. Or they instigated it. Like, we actually damaged their property. And, you know, I don't know if delinquents have nice motorcycles, but, I mean, that could cost a lot if it was, like, you know, some nice paint. I don't know. Who's in the wrong here, KHC? I think you just committed a crime and walked away from it. Anyway, after cooling off a bit inside the restaurant, little by little, I realized I was still on edge. There were spots here and there on my body that hurt, probably because I'd been so stiff with nervousness. Shion, who had changed into her uniform, brought over 2 glasses of iced coffee.
はい、これ。
Oh, the good
おごりの
uniform.
アイスコーヒー。レジでこのチケット渡せば無料になりますからね。
My patheticness really knew no bounds. But since she went through the trouble, I might as well take her up on the offer. Even though it had started out as such a lovely day, I had to get carried away and do that stupid thing. I'd completely ruined it.
でも本当にさ、さっきのは助かったよ。シオンが本当に頼もしく見えた。
私だって怖かったですよ。でも他ならぬケイちゃんのピンチだし、
In a pinch?
勇気出して頑張りましたってことです。
While a little embarrassed by what she just said, Shion made a show of folding her arms boldly.
シオン、本当にありがとうな。
I was thanking Shion, but I really wanted to thank Mion. Mion, really, thank you.
ほらほら、もう元気出してくださいよ。もしも恩義を感じるなら、今度はケイちゃんが他の誰かのために戦ってくださいね。例えば私がピンチになったら、きっと助けに来てくださいよ。
ああ、もちろんだ。約束する。
絶対ですからね。
Taking advantage of my words, she seemed happy about my promise.
ピンチになったらケイちゃんが助けに来てくれるのか。
This sounds, she's saying it so much, this sounds like this is going to come up later in the story. I wonder. And maybe we're gonna end up saying Mion and not Shion.
早くピンチにならないかな。あ、やっと笑ってくれた。
She said as she smiled herself, poking me in the cheek.
元気のないケイちゃんなんて偽物もいいとこです。ほら笑って笑って。
くすぐったいってば。やべ。
What a dumb laugh. Thanks to Shion's meddling, I finally cheered up a little. All the muscles in my body that had stiffened because of the incident finally began to relax a little.
元気出たらお腹とか空いてこないです？私お腹空いちゃいましたからホットケーキとか食べたいんですけど、ケイちゃんも食べます？
I wanted to show a little restraint, but restraint really wasn't my thing. That's why I replied without any.
うまいんだろうな。俺、ホットケーキはかなりうるさいぜ。
安心してください。うちのホットケーキはかなり評判いいですから。
Shion ordered some pancakes from a nearby waitress. An employee ordering from another employee seemed kind of weird.
おいおい、そういえばシオン、今バイト中じゃないのか？俺とずっと話をして油を売ってていいのかよ。
おじさんにね、私が不良に絡まれてるところをケイちゃんが助けてくれたって言ったら、ねぎらってあげろって。だから店長公認で OK です。
それ事実と正反対だぞ。いいのかな？
全然いいのです。
By the time the pancakes arrived, we'd entered into a relaxed conversation. As the two of us ate pancakes, we livened the mood with some chit-chat. About what was on TV, celebrities, that kind of thing. Hobbies, food. Really, nothing more than idle chit-chat. Talking together like this, I once again became conscientious of Shion being a girl. Hey now, that's funny talk, Keiichi Maibara. Shion and Mion are the same person. If there was anything different between them, it was only whether or not Mion admitted she was Mion. But given that, how come our conversation was this different?
ケイちゃんってお姉のことを女だと思ってないでしょう。
そんなことはない。
Always about your sister, isn't it?
男だったら容赦なくどつき倒してる。
ケイちゃんとお姉が仲がいいのって、そういうノンセクシャルな関係にあると思うんです。それってなかなかできない羨ましい関係ですよ。
言ってる意味がよくわかんないが、まあ確かに女にしとくにはもったいないやつだよな。
あ、ケイちゃん、それ男女差別ですよ。
Hearing the word sexist was cause for introspection. What was I prejudiced against Mion and Shion for? Mion was Mion. She was the best friend a guy could have, no reservations, and head and shoulders above me when it came to club activities. If I had met her 5 years earlier, my life would have probably been a lot more fun. Of this I had no doubt. Then what about Shion? She was Mion's little sister, and it hadn't even been 3 days since we met. Her relationship was much more distant, as the only thread we had in common was that I knew her sister. And for Shion, it was the same. I was somebody she met 3 days ago only because I was a friend of her sister's. The difference between Mion and Shion: friendliness, familiarity. Playing around with those unclear thoughts for a while, I'd stopped listening to Shion.
例えばですよ。聞いてます？
ああ、ごめん。聞いてるよ。
例えばですよ。私とお姉が共にピンチで、崖にぶら下がってる。
Oh no! What a predicament. Who would we save
ケイ
first?
ちゃんはどっちを助けます？
Oh.
どっちか一人だけですよ。
She wasn't saying it to tease me, but had a playful tone behind her voice.
嫌な問題だな。どっちも助けたいけど、それじゃダメなんだろ？
ダメです。シオンかミオンのどっちかだけです。どっちですか？
If it were Mion, I don't think she'd be in that situation in the first place, as it's something she could easily get herself out of. But what about the normal frail Shion? I guess I'd have no choice.
お姉じゃないですよね。
If Mion and Shion were different people, I suppose it would come to that. I couldn't confirm nor deny it. She should have been smiling, but her gaze was locked firmly to mine.
つまり、そういうことなんですよ。お姉はつまり、あれすみません。なんか自分で言ってて破綻しちゃいました。
Shion was trying to talk in a light-hearted manner, but I felt that there was something more behind her words. Was Mion trying to tell me something through Shion? Not being able to put a finger on exactly what it was vexing. Shion, to hide her embarrassment, turned the conversation around.
それよりも、さっきのあれ、驚きましたか？
そりゃ驚いたよ。レナやサトコが駆けつけてくれるならともかく、あんなに老若男女がいろいろと集まってくるんだからな。あれ全部ひなみ沢の人なんだろ？
ええ、そうです。ひなみ沢の人はみんな結束してるんですよ。一人の敵は全員の敵。日和見なんか誰もしません。結構頼もしい住民性なんですよ。
誰かがいじめられたらみんなで結束してやっつけるわけか。
See, I think that's important right there. Everyone unites to get rid of the, outsider, is kind of what it turned into last time.
なんだかマフィアとかヤクザみたいな結束だな。
そんなこと言っちゃダメですよ。とてもありがたいことなんですから。ケイちゃんもそれに助けられたんですよ。感謝の気持ちを忘れないように。
I half-heartedly agreed. I knew full well I should be appreciative.
ひなみ沢の人たちって本当に仲が良くて結束してるんだな。
昔からの伝統かな。ひなみ沢って昔からいろいろと敗損の危機に遭うんですよね。その度に結束して戦って存続を勝ち取ってきたっていう歴史があるんですよ。例えばケイちゃん、ひなみ沢ダム計画って知ってます？
You're wandering down that dark path again, Keiichi. This is how you die. Hinamizawa Dam Project? Let's see. I feel like I've heard someone talk about it before.
10年くらい前にね、突然ここにダムができてひなみ沢が丸ごと水没するって話になったんですよ。
あ、そんな話親父かなんかに聞いたことが
Oh,
ある
thank goodness we don't have to recap all that.
でもそれって確か中止になったんだろ？
中止にさせたんですよ。みんなで団結して。 だからこれは戦って勝ち取った勝利なんです。
That sounded pretty much like the story I heard. The protest intensified to the point where it was featured in newspapers and magazines. As a result, the plan was suspended.
ダムの話そのものは私が生まれる前からあったらしいんです。最初は候補地調査とか砂防のための小さいダムとかそんな程度の話だったんですよ。